Hello and welcome to TableTalk Friday, a weekly dose of D&D banter between three lads in a bedroom. If you like their style, make sure to follow them on whichever podcast service you prefer and come back every Friday for another upload. Now, back to the boys.
We should do a Spider-Man one-off.
No, I don't think so.
I think we should.
I mean, Zach has played in an Avengers-themed one-off.
I did play an Avengers-themed one-off. And you know what? Not to just give me all the virgin points here, but it was kind of fun.
No, I mean...
I was playing as I was Captain Neverwinter, the Captain America analog in our group. I don't think we had a Spider-Man, because Seth, you wanted to be Spider-Man. And
yeah,
then you
I wanted to do Spider-Man,
session.
and then I didn't go. But I mean,
but it was
I was.
It was
thinking,
a lot of fun.
Yo,
for a
man,
little bit.
that was a really good overlap there.
Great overlap.
No, I definitely didn't play in the Avengers session, but I mean, that entire campaign we played was all Avengers themed, so I think it makes up for it.
Yeah. So maybe I'm sure we'll cover this in a story time, because actually this is a great story time. But we did get tricked into our campaign world. This entire time we thought, all right, we're in the Forgotten Realms. This is the standard D&D setting, so I've been told. But our DM, while we were playing, and I won't name him here, but it was like secretly sneaking in Marvel characters in ways that we didn't perceive at first. So it's like, yeah, here's this red-headed blind guy, and he fights crime. But like, in that way that a D&D character might fight crime. So it wasn't super suspicious. And then you guys literally ran into Iron Man in a one-off.
And I was none the wiser, dude.
That's just a one-off. That's not canon. But then later, we run into Antonio Starkovian, and no one's, obviously Tony Stark, no one had the red alert go off in their mind for like a couple months.
No, I didn't even, it did not register to me at all that we were playing in an Avengers-themed world until after we stopped playing in said Avengers-themed world. Like,
yeah,
we finished the whole convergence, and I was like, oh my god. Like, you told me, you were like, Antonio Starkovian, that never like went off in your head, and I was like, no! Not a single time did I ever think Tony Stark. Which could be my own bad, but still.
Yeah, well, and I wasn't even there for that Iron Man session. Otherwise, I think I might have picked up on it. But geez. I mean, it's just crazy how long it took us, because our DM would not give us any information about this. He wanted us to just find it out on our own. But anyway, long story short, our characters ended up meeting and partnering up with the Avengers, who in this version of the Forgotten Realms were running an Adventurers Guild.
Yeah.
So. And
I thought they were. I thought they were hot shit. I mean, I probably could have beat him and Schmidt the Monk, but come on.
Yeah.
And to be fair,
Schmidt
like the
Man.
cinematic moments with Iron Man and stuff were kind of cool. I was like, wow. This is magic and crazy stuff that I've never seen before. It's insane. It's cool. And then later I find out, it was just Iron Man powers that he gave to this guy. And I'm like, oh man, this could have been so much cooler than it was. It felt a little shoehorned, but at the same time, I didn't hate it.
Yeah, maybe to talk about that a little bit. I think stealing inspiration from the media that you consume, great idea as a DM, especially if you're the kind of DM who isn't Matt Mercer, and you're not gonna, be selling this story as like an original, IP later on down the line. But if you're just running D&D for your friends, steal that shit. Like Iron Man can be in your game, just don't call him Iron Man.
Yeah. I would definitely say that if you're gonna use IP and stuff, put a little your own spin on it. It's cool to play something in a certain setting if you want to do that, but if you're playing something Forgotten Realms, I I would say just clarify up front.
Right. Well, and even there's a difference between taking inspiration from, oh, well, I want this character to kind of remind you of Iron Man because I like that character. Yeah. And like, that's something that's easy for me to access as a DM or a player. Like, I know sort of what Tony Stark is like. Stony Tark. Sorry about that.
It's Sony Tark.
Yeah, but just know when you're taking that inspiration that your players might be a little weirded out by that, especially if you don't establish up front that that's the sort of thing that's going to be happening in the session that day. Or, in that campaign. I feel like that's more of a session 0 conversation that we'd have.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's, when we were playing Phandalin or Phandelver at the very beginning, so that's kind of what I thought we were doing the whole time. And then it did go into more of an Avengers storyline, which is cool. I was down to take jobs with the Avengers afterwards. I mean, the group fell apart after that, and we made our own campaign, but still. And yeah, a lot of the one-offs we played,
ultimately, it was a cool reveal.
It.
Yeah.
I think ultimately you could take inspiration for anything you want. If your players catch on to the theming of what you're doing, you probably did it wrong.
Yeah, fair.
You could do it subtly.
Yeah, I guess sort of like how I took inspiration for the this will shoehorn in the one-off talk, but the Daleth one-off that we did, how I took inspiration from Persona for writing that, but it's not like it was outwardly like, Seth, you were playing Persona recently, so that's why we got this one-off. It was like, afterwards I said, oh, guys, I kind of themed the way that the dungeon and stuff was set up around one of the palaces in Persona 5, but, like, it wasn't an outright rip. It was like, oh, the way the rules of this realm work that I made up are kind of the same.
Yeah, and really well. I'd say that's a good example of taking a clear inspiration of, oh, yep, that's that thing, but it didn't take me out of it in the session. I just thought we were doing some cool, personality-based dreamscape, high-level wizard adventuring. Yeah. So it was really cool the way that you made it fit and still played to the thing that you were interested in.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good way to set it around one-offs. Speaking of one-offs, welcome to Table Talk Friday, everybody, for our newest episode. This should be coming out the week of Christmas 2021. Crazy to say that 2021 is ending in 2 weeks. But regardless, we're back for another episode, and this week we are talking all about one-offs. Some of our favorite bits from one-offs, some inspiration for writing your own, and sort of how we structure our own. And I think we should leave the beginning of this episode to none other than Drew, who has been preparing the one-off that we're about to play next week for like 2-3 years at this point, because it keeps getting canceled.
Every time we talk about it, I get so excited, but I'm so stressed. It's 2 years of thoughts that I'm finally putting down on paper, and then just constantly thinking and recycling ideas over and over again, and I will continue to do until 5 minutes before we start.
Yeah, so why don't you go ahead and explain some of the details of what we're about to go into next week?
Yeah, so here's the exact details of the entire one-off.
No, like about your process.
So, here's kind of the process that I use for creating one-offs. So, I try to take 3 specific encounters that I've come up with, or something that I think would be very cool, and turn those into 3 encounters. The reason I do 3 is because I've run a number of one-offs in the past that don't end. We'll play them for a few hours.
And what's the point of a one-off?
What happened?
And what's the point of a one-off?
To play it in 3 sessions.
For anyone who doesn't know, a one-off is a one-shot, should I say, is a session you sit down, start and end in one sitting. It's not a campaign. It doesn't take years to finish. You're supposed to sit down, start the story, and end the story in that one session.
Which, speaking of, that actually goes into the roots of D&D for me. My original one-off I was going to run for a group of friends turned into a 3-off, and then into a 40-session campaign.
And that does happen a lot with groups, too, how they'll play a one-off and be like, wow, that was my first session of D&D, that was so much fun, and then carry that over into getting a passion for it and saying, I want to keep this character, can we just turn this into a campaign? And it does sometimes. I mean, That's how I've gotten some players into the game before, and that's how, like, your first session that you played as Eknon was testing out a character in a one-off. Same with Patrick and Daylith.
Level 14,
right? And I think that's a great way for the DM specifically to use a one-off as a tool, especially when you're starting with a new group of people. You're not exactly sure how everyone's going to gel together, so maybe it might be beneficial for, even if as a DM you think, yeah, I do want to run a campaign, it might be nice to run everyone through a one-off together and see, all right, oh, well, this new time, first-time player says, that was fun, but I don't think I could commit to doing this every Friday for the rest of my life. So it gives everyone a chance to get a taste of D&D. You all sit down and play, but then ultimately it would be your decision to continue past that point.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I totally
restructure
agree with
the
that.
group as needed.
I think taking it even a step further, getting away from the structure of them, I think the first time you play D&D probably should be a one-off.
Yeah.
I would actually discourage you from jumping directly into a campaign. Just get a little taste, a little flavor, dip your toe in the water.
It does let you know if it's for you or not. Joining a campaign because you got peer pressured into it and then being told to sit down every week. I don't know a lot of people that wouldn't get into it after trying for a while. I think D&D is an everybody thing, not just a nerds and virgins thing. But
that's my personal version of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm releasing
Nerds
actually
and
on my Kickstarter. Yeah,
Eds and
Nerds and
Vs.
Virgins.
Mages and monsters.
Or the Borderlands version, Bunkers and Badasses.
All good stuff.
But no, I totally agree. I think that's what I did with Patrick when I didn't know if he was gonna like the game. That's what I did with you whenever, like, I had you play in Sean's one-off whenever we ended up doing that. And granted, I joined into a campaign. I think, Zach, you joined into a campaign your first time, and we did the same thing with, like, Chase and a lot of other people. So I wouldn't say discourage it if someone knows it's going to be a thing that they'll get into eventually. But it is beneficial, especially when you're testing out new players to your group, when you're testing out a character you're not sure if you're going to gel with. Like, you want to test out the playstyle. Like, oh, I don't really know if I want to play a wizard, but I have this cool concept. I want to see if it works for me. All of those things do help with actually getting into your character more, making sure you're going to have the best experience, and not commit to something for years that you're not really gelling with that much.
Right, and so I think all of this sort of speaks to the heart of what I think the benefit of a one-off or a one-shot would be, which is this is the time to test things. As a DM or as a player, everyone knows when they're going into a one-off that, okay, well, we may or may not be continuing past this point with these characters and with this world. So if there's ever something that I thought, maybe I'd like to do, but I'm not sure how I'd like it, now's the time. If you're a player like me who says, I don't know if I could play a warlock for a whole campaign, but I've never played a warlock, so now's the time.
Exactly.
To do that. Or as a DM, sort of my design philosophy, just to, sort of segue into that a little bit, is always, okay, I'm doing a one-off. What's the one thing that I haven't seen before in D&D that I would like to introduce to this one-off to make it memorable? Yeah,
well, so, and what have you introduced
like
in the past that you've done? I know
what was that?
We've played a number of one-offs in the past. Like, what have you introduced in the past during one-offs to, like, test the waters? Yeah,
so there's a number of different things. Homebrew, for example, is a good one. I like testing. There was one specific mechanic that I was really into for a bit, and I did end up using it for a short campaign for Eberron. But Fighting Spirit is what it's called, and essentially it just changes the way that hit points work in a way that incentivizes players to be more risk-taking and allows them to fight stronger monsters at a lower level, but also makes death more, scary once you get down to that point, without taking away their agency as much. I think it's a cool addition, but for a full campaign, I don't know. But that's where that one-off sort of started. So I was thinking about Fighting Spirit. I wanted to see how it works and if we wanted to introduce it into our games. So I centered a whole one-off around that. Other things that I've done, when Ghosts of Saltmarsh, the book, came out for the first time, and I wasn't really thinking about running it as a campaign, I did just go immediately to the back because I wanted to see what all this, sea combat and, ship mechanics that they added was sort of about. So I went through and said, that seems really cool. I'd like to do a session where we sort of mess around with the new ship mechanics and see how we like that. So just things like that. One I've done before, there was a group of new players who really wanted to get into D&D, so they said, all right, DM, run me through this thing. And I said, all right, well, my one thing for this session is I love ogres. I've never seen someone do a good ogre. So this session, I just went to the monster manual. I said, this is going to be my ogre session. where I make my ogre character and I satisfy that need that's been in the back of my mind.
Right.
And you know what? Just a personal tangent. I don't know what it is. I do like ogres. I feel like they're an underappreciated monster.
I've only run ogres a couple of times, and that was in Storm Kings whenever I had like your friend ogres.
Yeah, we immediately diffused them and did not have to deal with like a mean angry ogre. So
but
that was fun for me to do.
I would definitely say for me, the way I like to do one-offs, I usually say no holds barred as far as making your character goes. If you have a broken build you want to try out, if you have a magic item that you really wanted to you've always wanted to use and it works for this level, please just ask for it and I'll probably give it to you. If there's an Unearthed Arcana thing that you're kind of interested in, it's time for playtesting. If we want to try a new setting briefly, or a new race or something weird, I'm usually down to have my players do whatever they've been itching to do with the character. If there's any super creative thing that they come up with, especially if it's like Nuth. Whenever Sean was designing Nuth, who is a bugbear character with a very long reach, he used him in a one-off a long time ago. He designed a character with a 15-foot reach with the certain weapon he chose and being a bugbear with that extra 5-foot range. So he designed this character to be able to hit anybody, and it ended up working out pretty well for him. Overall, I would say my structure for a one-off starts off with making sure I have at least a beginning, middle, and end, meaning that usually they're starting out at the beginning either with some build up to going to the middle section, or maybe even starting in combat or just about to get into combat. But usually they're getting all the mission pieces put together at the very beginning. The middle is the travel, the adventure, the time that you get there, and maybe just a little bit of dungeon delving if we have time for it. And then that ending section for me is all about the boss battle, the wrap up, making sure we have a nice, good ending that kind of makes it all feel complete. I've run bad one-offs, and I've also run good one-offs. Bad one-offs usually comes down to me not being perfectly prepared for it, or having a problem player at the table that you're like, oh my gosh, I just kind of wish this would end, but I can't kick someone out of the table in the middle of a one-session game. Something like that does come up, and that's okay, because one-offs are about testing. Don't take it personally if you write a one-off and things don't go well, because like we just said, it's all about playtesting and seeing what actually works. Now, campaigns, if I run a session that goes poorly, I feel like shit, because I've been doing this for a while. I don't like it when a session goes bad in a campaign. But, to be fair, we haven't had a bad session in a very long time.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But as far as one-offs go, if it goes poorly, I'll look around the table at the people I know also thought it went poorly and go, whew, I'm glad that's over.
I think to build on that, though, it's rare to find a poor one-off. Usually because there's not a lot of stakes, because you're not coming back to this.
Yeah.
So you feel more obligated to just go balls to the wall and do whatever you want.
Likewise, though, for instance, I designed a one-off that I wouldn't say was the best session, but I would say went poorly, where I was irritated at the end, I sort of designed a fairy tale themed one-off. I think both of you played in it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know Zach played in it for sure. Drew, I think you were there. It was the ice tower.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That was great.
I designed that, and I think your characters were fun and everything, but there was a lot of like stuff happening at the table. Like the puzzles were a little too difficult to play through, and I was getting a little bit irritated. I could tell the table was a little bit irritated, and I was like, okay, I know this is an idea that is cool in concept, but that I don't really like. Of these puzzles and stuff that are a little too difficult and take up a little bit too much time. Whenever we should get to the meat and potatoes of why are we here and what are we doing.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example of why a one-shot is useful. And even when, a session may not have been as, up to our level of quality that we'd established at that point, like in our main campaign, that we still got something valuable out of that, which was we don't really like puzzles, and we don't use them very often at our table.
And that made room, I think, for the puzzle I added in Avernus a couple of weeks ago, where I was like, can't make it too difficult, but I want the players to feel like they solved it. So where I had the sigils all around the Ubelux shrine, where I was like, I am going to use this puzzle that's in here because I can make it work in a way that I think the players will enjoy, where instead of having you guys have to figure it all out with your own brains, I had your characters make checks to get information. I think that was a way, thing that I learned from that one-off that we did a long time ago. Like, okay, how about I use the actual character skills to solve this problem and give the players information, as opposed to, let's make the players solve this in character. Because realistically, you don't have a 20 intelligence like your level 10 wizard does.
Yeah, exactly. And I think puzzles specifically are not what people come to D&D for.
Right.
But they're best used and best serve just getting the flavor that you want for a specific encounter. So if we're in this dungeon designed by a genius wizard or whatever, we think, all right, well, this guy definitely is going to have some traps in here and some, things that need to be solved. So that having that is nice flavor, but ultimately, I don't think you should spend more than 10 minutes on a puzzle.
I agree.
At that point, we're all getting frustrated and tired, and we'd much rather be engaging with the game in the way that we enjoy more.
Likewise, while puzzles may not be my favorite thing in Dungeons and Dragons, I think one of the things I did learn that I really love, especially themed around a one-off, is a good mystery.
Oh, absolutely.
A mystery themed one-off. One, they're pretty easy to write. Two, they're usually fun for the party where it makes sense to solve a case in one session and be like, okay, those characters go on to do some other case in the future. For instance, I once had a one-off that I set up. I think it was one of my first one-offs I ever designed, but I literally designed a tiny village. It's got 4 houses and an inn. It's like along the main road, and it's basically like a little stop. Think of it as like a gas station, and the houses surrounding said gas station. They're all farms. And each of the houses had a little bit of information towards the mystery, and the inside of the inn was sort of the central point of everything that was going on. I think that mystery-themed one-offs are one of the most perfect ways to set up these scenarios because they feel like they make sense, they wrap up, and you can come back to it if you choose to recycle those characters and just continue their story.
I would definitely agree, and that was a good one-off too. Similarly, I'm running a series of one-offs, but it's really not. I ran a one-off for my girlfriend and her sisters a while ago, and it was for a curator of magical artifacts and trinkets. So what he did was he sent them on a mission to retrieve it was a genie's lamp, is what it was. And at the end of the one-off, successfully a one-off, by the way, it did end. I was very proud. So they bring it back. He was pleased that they were able to do it. And now in the future, any one-offs they want to run, they go back to Mr. Moscow, the curator, and he gives them a mission, and they go on it.
Yeah.
So, I guess in regard to the one-offs, with the difficulties of the length of it, how long it's supposed to be, how short it's supposed to be, what you should have prepared, from now on, I have what I'm going to call the extra encounter, the 4th encounter, if you will, where I create an extra situation that I'm able to insert at any given point of the one-off if I need to lengthen it.
Okay.
Otherwise, I could totally cut it out. It's technically unimportant to the story. It'll build on lore. It'll give you more details, more loot, perhaps.
Yeah.
But it's something that can be removed to shorten it if I have to.
Something that I like along those lines too is I usually have more ideas for a one-off than can fit in a 3 or 4 hour session.
Yes.
So
yes.
something that I'll often do is write down the list of encounters I would love to have today, and then whichever one seems like the most fun at the time, just cherry pick the one that I insert. And if I'm like, okay, we're running low on time, I won't do any more encounters. I'll just go straight to the boss encounter. Or we have a lot of extra time after this. I'm gonna pick another one of these and throw it in.
I think I'm running into that situation right now with the Christmas one-off, because for 2 years I've been thinking of various encounters and situations that I think would be really cool and that people would enjoy.
Yeah.
And every other week or every few months, I'm like, oh, this is way cooler. And I'll trash the last one and insert the new one.
Yeah.
So now I have all these puzzle pieces of things I want to do, and I'm just picking which pieces I want.
Yeah. Zach, do you have any thoughts on like structure and such on one-offs?
Yeah, so we've sort of established two different, not different, but different ways of looking at the same sort of thing, which I think is interesting. Drew, you mentioned you have your 3 encounters, or maybe like 3 with some extra flavor. And Seth, you said you like to have a beginning, middle, and end is sort of your structure. The way that I usually think about my one-offs and how I structure it, I do think 3 is a magic number there. But what I like to go off of is sort of what Wizards of the Coast, they sort of talk about having, the 3 pillars of play, a social encounter, a combat encounter, and an exploration encounter. Those are the 3 things that I usually like to include in my one-off. So just a pro tip from someone who's run a lot of bad one-offs. You always want to jump right into the meat of the action. Usually, if there's a quest giver, don't bother with the players talking to the quest giver. If there's any shopping that the players want to do, like to get a particular item or whatever, have them have done it before the session, and then just jump right into it. So ultimately, there's 3 main things that we want to do. There may be 1 or 2 minor combat encounters just for flavor, really, so that the players feel like whatever class they've chosen really has gotten to shine. And they didn't, waste all that time thinking about their character. But ultimately, you want a main social encounter, something that gives whoever rolled up a bard something to do. You want something that involves exploration or thinking outside the box, outside of, all right, how do we kill this thing? And then ultimately, you do want the big set piece boss encounter, where you fight the monster, everyone gets to, shine in whatever class that they've chosen, and then it ends. And, that's that's really what we're ultimately trying to get to is, I think 4 hours is the tops that a D&D session, like a typical D&D session, you'd want to go. And I think for a one-off, 3 hours is usually the best. Especially if, for one-offs, I have a lot of new players usually when I run them. And some new players will check out after 2. So really, you don't want to leave that player
Some
hanging
new players never check in.
Yeah, exactly, right? So you don't want it to be agony for them if they're, if this is the session they decide, you know what, I don't think this is for me. So the 3 hours, I definitely agree. So, I guess the rule of 3 there. Maybe we should put it in a book or something.
I mean,
how to write good one-offs.
I do think that 3 hours is fine, but I've had some of my best one-offs. I mean, we do have an established group that does one-offs well. Go for 4 or 4.5. 3 hours, yeah, that's a magic number, I think, especially for newer players, because it can kind of get them the idea of what everything is. Spend, 45 minutes to an hour on each section and wrap up well. But I think my sweet spot for running sessions lately has been that 3.5, 4 hour mark, and I've had sessions go 4.5 hours before where I'm still feeling good at the end. Now 5 and 6 hours, I'm probably asleep by then. I have taken that NyQuil we talked about in the last week's episode, and I've taken that NyQuil, I've checked out, and I'm done.
Yeah, I'll say I can definitely agree with you there, and I'd say that's probably my weakness as a DM is not so much for one-offs. I've made enough mistakes to the point where I will not let a one-off drag on for that long anymore. But in my campaign sessions, I'm always like, but I just want him to get a little bit further. So we might go. Mine usually will end up around the 4-hour mark. If I'm having a good day.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, which is why I have my stopping points in every session now. That's why we in Avernus have had sessions that end up at 2.5 hours, and then we have sessions that end up at 4.5. Because I'll be like, I am stopping here today. This is where I plan to stop. Now, if it drags on, I can stop earlier, but I usually don't go past my stopping point. Like I'll normally have prepared stuff past my stopping point, but I won't go past it because I'm like, this is the spot where I think it'll wrap up well. So it's like, I know it's only been 2.5 hours, guys, but you got to your point. We're gonna pick up from there next week, or 4 hours go by and we finally hit that spot, and it's like, wow, that was a good, satisfying ending.
I think it also goes by the table too.
Yeah,
because I've mentioned this to you before, Seth. I've had very different groups of players in different settings, to where if we're all playing at the table, I agree with you guys, the 3-4 hours, pretty much max. We've done some 2-hour sessions, but I've also run a campaign where all the players we weren't as serious, we weren't as objective. It was more so us all hanging out, having a good time.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see each other a whole lot. And so most of our sessions were about 5 hours, I would say.
Yeah.
So it went a little longer. But it was cool because we would just role play everything. We'd go into every little bit. We made sure we got all the lore, And frankly, if we got to the 5-hour mark and we wanted to hang out some more, and it was only 2:00 in the morning, keep going.
I remember those days where you guys would do that, and I thought you were all insane. Like, that's just not me. I like having the coherent. All right, this is my starting and ending point, and I feel good about it, and that's it. Even some weeks though where I wanted to play more, where I'm like, oh, I would love to go for another 2 hours. But I think this is a good spot just to make sure that everything runs well, and I'm okay with those decisions. And frankly, with the groups that we have sitting around and talking for 3 hours after the 2-hour session we had anyways, it's probably going to happen, so it's fine.
That is true.
Yeah,
true.
As long as we're hanging out.
Yeah, exactly. One-offs, though. One-offs, that's what we were talking about. So, I actually wanted to use some of this time that we have to talk about some crazy ideas we've had for some one-offs. I can start out a little bit because I want to talk a little bit about my character concept that I have coming up for this Christmas one-off we've got going on next week. Now, Drew has designed a Christmas one-off that we have been trying to do around the holidays for 2 years now, have not done, and finally it's going to happen next Wednesday, the 23rd.
It's going to be incredible.
Very excited for it, which I guess by the time this comes out, it's coming out on Christmas. This happened 2 days ago, guys. It was great.
Oh, that's so
promise.
stressful.
I promise it was great. But like my character concept, this is when I like to take inspiration from media and stuff, like character concepts and things that I'm like, oh, I would love to be that character. I'm basically playing Santa Claus's secretary, who is a Harengon, the bunny race that came out in the Wild Beyond the Witchlight book recently. I'm playing a Harengon who used to be Santa's secretary. He came from wherever the Easter Bunny lives and then moved to the North Pole to work for Santa. He had a very good salary, good vacation days, good... all the benefits were great, and Santa let him go because he didn't really need him anymore. He has his own way of doing things, and we didn't mesh as well. Now he works underneath the Great Pumpkin in Halloween Town, also known as what I've named Lantern, and his name is Jack of Lantern. And during his paid time off every single year that he gets, he always gets a couple weeks off. He gets this group and tries to fuck with Santa Claus because that's just, well, he was recruited to the group a long time ago, and he goes along with this group to fuck with Santa Claus to get revenge on Christmas for getting laid off in the past. His benefits aren't as good anymore. He doesn't make as much money, and it's Santa's fault. And he's very Green Goblin themed. He is supervillain themed. So he's got a big jack-o'-lantern pumpkin on his head, a long, spiky black cape, and he rides on a floating glider, just like the Green Goblin would, using his illusory, like this giant scroll to cast his spells. He's a scribe wizard with the absolute best defense of any wizard that's out there. Because if he's nothing else, he's very, very selfish, and he does not care if the party dies. He's out.
And before we go any further with that, I'm going to clarify, because people are going to be thinking, oh my gosh, Drew is the best DM ever. He lets his players do whatever the hell they want to do. This is a no-holds-barred Christmas heist, where they're all going out. They're going to be bad. They're trying to steal the jingle bells.
Yes.
So this is
I don't even know what that means.
Very specific. I mean, neither do I.
Yeah, what do the jingle bells do?
You have to find out.
But either way, we're 10th level. It's going to be a blast. And see, then that's what I'm saying when I say that all of this stuff can be super creative, because I had this idea for a Green Goblin-themed villain, and I had his whole backstory in my head, and I was like, Drew, can I do this? Can I have this really cool glider magic item that's also like my spell focus that also does this? And he goes, yeah, I mean, we're doing this for fun. I want you guys to have fun. Do it. And so now everybody has well-balanced, powerful magic items to go along with them. But that's my little creative thing that I had in my mind. I'd always wanted to play a supervillain character, and I had just watched the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, so it was time to play a Green Goblin.
I'm
For
so
sure. And I'm
gosh.
very excited to hate your character, because I know I will. I know when we
I planned for
get into that
everyone. I
section.
planned for everyone to hate my character.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't wait to TPK you guys.
Well, except me.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
because
yeah.
you'll teleport
You
away,
won't
but everyone
TPK
else.
us. No, Jack Lumber is coming to play, okay?
Oh, no. We should mention that while we're on the podcast here. Just about everyone's name is Jack in this one-off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I'm
well,
Jack
that's
of Lantern.
sorta-
He's Jack Lumber. Girlfriend Eric was thinking about Cracker Jack as
Yep.
reindeer name. Who else was Jack?
Gosh. At this point,
Was Chase
we
doing
had
it, Jack?
You Jack, Zach Jack, girlfriend Jack. Is it just... Oh, no, Chase Jack as well.
Okay, so yeah, we've got 4 Jacks, and then I don't want to spoil any of the other characters that I know about from the party, because I've been talking about mine because I want everybody to know my crazy idea, but I can't wait to see everybody else's characters.
I'm
Yeah.
just really excited to look across the table and say, all right, I need Jack, and Jack to make deck saves, please.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. And I also had to make sure I preface to everybody that I will be playing a character, and I plan for you to hate my character. This is not Seth the player. That's why I let everybody know. I was like, guys, here's my concept. I know you're gonna hate me.
Yeah, well, we're never going to run that villain campaign that you want to play in so bad, so this one-off is your opportunity, right?
Exactly.
You talk about the campaign for Lieutenant Germany?
Jeez.
I don't think I want to be in that campaign.
Jeez. So what about you guys? Any crazy creative ideas you've done for one-offs that you're excited about or like were at the time?
There was one that I think too. We were talking about using one-offs as testing things, right? And the one-off you guys both actually played, and we did not finish, of course.
I know what you're gonna
say. Was the one where you guys had to guard the room while people were in a meeting,
And we were great at it.
and you guarded that room for 3 hours. It was great. You guys were the best guards ever.
You want to tell them the concept?
So the concept was that, just to give a little backstory, there was these people, these lizard folk on a far-off island that studied...
Well, I meant our concept, the mission we were told.
Yeah, so the objective was they were to guard this room where these councilmen in this city were supposedly having a conversation in a meeting about how to get more water in the city, because this was a very dry, arid setting.
There was a drought.
Yeah, it was a bad time. So they had to guard these people to make sure that all the civilians and the people were calm, relaxed. They weren't charging the doors down to get water, because there wasn't any.
We were hired as guards, and so
Yeah.
all of us were like, okay, well, we were told not to come into this room. We were told just to keep these people out. There was a lot of social encounters we were going through, talking to people, threats to murder people, making sure that... But, I don't think we ended up killing any civilians.
No,
I don't think
no,
they
we
did.
didn't.
No, I think
No,
that's
we
pretty
didn't.
good about
So-
it.
Old Prune might have.
So, I mean, the good thing was, like, we took the concept very seriously. Drew was like, I have a concept for you guys. You're told to guard a room. guard it. And we were all like, okay, that's this one-off, and that sounds fun. That means I was under the impression that this was very much like I'm on a ride, and I just have to go with it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going through Space Mountain, I'm being railroaded a little bit, and encounters are going to come to me. I don't have to do any of the work for it. And I was kind of excited for that. Then finding out when we opened up at one point the door to where these councilmen are meeting, and of course they're all dead. So
and they've been dead this whole
was really
time,
cool.
I should mention.
Real quick,
Drew probably expected us to open that door so long ago.
Cool. Yep, it doesn't matter. All cool.
So Drew's dropped for just a moment. A little bit of technical difficulties here, but I had a blast in said setting or session, and I think that the concept was amazing. I do wish we got to finish it because I know the story now afterwards. Because Drew was like, "We're never finishing this. Here, let me just tell you everything that happened," and it was very fun.
Yeah, there was weird blood magic stuff going on. So, like, when we went in the room, everyone was dead, and there was this blood artifact that was causing Patrick's character to bleed profusely from the arm that he touched it with. And we thought, oh, we gotta stop the bleeding. So we cut off his arm to keep it from spreading because we didn't know.
And so we death warded him, cut his arm off, and then healed it. Which was a very, I think, creative way to use our abilities that we
Absolutely.
had. Drew was like, that was not the solution, guys, but it was a solution.
I was very impressed. The solution was that the artifact was resistant to magical healing.
Yeah.
So all you had to do is wrap a bandage around it.
Yeah, and we did. After we cut his arm off.
Yeah, it was great.
Regardless, very fun session, though. I had a great time guarding that room, even though we failed miserably at the mission.
And one more thing is, the concept was really cool. But another thing I wanted to get at was, at the end, something you guys didn't get to, something I wanted to try was the boss was actually two separate people that shared legendary actions.
Oh.
And so there was a very tanky, enslaved hill giant, and he was ridden by this blood shaman. So you had the magic, and you had the brute strength. They worked together, and they could use their legendary actions to do different sorts of blood magic types of things.
Yeah, that's cool. I like it. Wish we got to play it.
Yeah, would have great. Great.
What about you, Zach?
The 2-off.
Yeah, we'll do a 2-off. I got you.
All right, Zach. Any crazy things that you've been through on one-offs?
Well, I can talk about my one-offs a little bit more. But Seth, by the end of this episode, I do want you to mention your Black Dragon one-off, which was my favorite to play through.
Okay, yeah, I can mention that at the end.
Okay, but since we've seeded that, we'll move on to something else and come back. My favorite one-off that I've run personally was a couple years ago over the summer. I had a lot of downtime, so I was sort of workshopping my own homebrew setting for a campaign that I was thinking about running at some point. But I had a lot of ideas surrounding it, but I just sort of wanted to get everyone familiar with the setting. And this is the same one where Ghost of Saltmarsh had come out recently, so I really wanted to do something with boats. So anyways, the premise of the one-shot was you all were a group of treasure hunters. Recently, the king's royal treasury had been raided by pirates, and so the thieves had sailed across the jagged sea and either got lost along their way or found some rendezvous point out there in the middle of the ocean. And essentially, there was just all this treasure out there that had up and vanished. So you were sent to go and, or really, you were sent by yourselves to go and plunder the booty. So I tried doing a pirate one-off in the past, and it didn't go so great. So I really wanted to redeem myself here. So basically, the premise of the session was you all were sailing out into dangerous waters, and you had to return with this treasure. So there were multiple skill challenges and parts where the sea would be doing something where they, the party would have to come up with a clever solution to keep from crashing. There were jagged rocks and fog rolling in. There was a brief storm for a little bit. All the while, you had to stay on course with the path that you suspected the ship to have gone in. And then ultimately, the session concluded with a big encounter with a bunch of Sahuagin or Salguin or Sahuagin, however you call them, the sea devils, the little green guys in the water.
People.
Yeah, the shark folk. I don't know. Those guys, you fought them. And just, to say additionally, I do love Sahuagin. I think they're one of my favorite monsters to fight against. So there was this big encounter with the Swagin and a giant shark. And they'd been trying to ferry the treasure back
And Patrick's
to their
character
lair.
definitely didn't die. They
No.
definitely didn't die.
Yeah. You're talking about Rhubarb Jenkins? Yeah, no, he's fine.
The Rhubarb Jenkins.
He made it out
Rhubarb Jenkins.
alive, and he's retired.
So that was probably one of my favorite one-offs to play in. I haven't played in that many, but like my character, Valikas Hoy, the son of the city, was one of my favorite characters to play, because what the concept you had in that was the for your setting that the magic was illegal. Like, you're not supposed to be using magic unless you have a good reason to.
Right?
And
yeah, it was.
So
it was
I
heavily
had
controlled.
So I had a crossbow with a hidden compartment with a gem on the inside that was my arcane focus, and I was a sorcerer, which I loved. It was so much fun to play. But I guess now's a good time to get into, to wrap up this episode, the Black Dragon one-off. Probably my favorite one that I've run. It was a ton of fun. At the time, I was coming up with a lot of ideas for wild magic. So the party were visiting this wizard for some reason. I don't remember if it was an auction or a party or what.
I think it was an auction.
Yeah, so you guys were coming to an auction, looking for very specific items and whatnot, and sometime in the middle of this auction, all of you and the people on the inside of this place are teleported via this wizard's house to a wild magic zone, to which he had discovered and started taking as sort of his own land. He teleported everybody here in order to have you guys, the characters, actually go out and get rid of the threat that is on this island, so that way he can sort of use this as his own domain. You guys are all teleported to this wild magic zone. You read a sign that's like, welcome to whatever I ended up naming it, and all of the creatures that you're meeting here are modified in some way. You ran into a giant ape that had 4 arms and got like 4 attacks, I believe I gave it. You ran into all kinds of different weird looking animals that weren't hostile to you but didn't look quite right. Like, for instance, I believe I had like a deer or something that had like scales going down its back. A bunch of stuff going on like that, and you guys saw flying over the top of the sky just this pair of yellow eyes looking down at you as it flies towards the crest of this massive cliff that lies overhead. Knowing that is the threat that you're going after, you started trekking upwards. On your way up, you run into one of these giant apes that has 4 arms. This is sort of the middle section, the exploration section that Zach was talking about. You guys got a choice to go to 2 sides, and I had 2 different encounters prepared. So you either go around the east or the western side of this massive cliff. You guys ended up going east and going up the back, which is where you run into this 4-armed beast. I believe on the other side I had some sort of like modified dinosaur prepared to fight. But ran into the ape, fought it, killed it, and continued upwards. Once you got to the top, the Black Dragon made its home up here. Now, a really cool function that I wanted to test out, on top of this thing already having multiple different uses for magic and such, it did have its legendary actions, it had a couple of spells it could cast, and it was resistant, I believe, to most spells because of it being born in this wild magic zone. Every 3 spells that were cast in combat, didn't really matter what the spells were, and it counted for the dragon too. A wild magic effect would go off from a table I found online. So something random would happen every 3 spells that were cast, and you guys had a lot of spellcasters on your side. So I think 4 or 5 times we got an effect to go off, which was super fun in combat and different. what you ended up doing was wearing down the dragon's legendary resistances and then polymorphing it to where it dropped the full distance and died. And upon casting polymorph, the caster turned into a potted plant, which was very fun for everyone at the table, which was hilarious for everyone at the table, winning the combat and then changing into a potted plant. It was very fun, very interesting. You guys ended up going back after that to the wizard saying, hey, we took care of this threat, but you sent us here basically to die, and we don't like that. You tried to fight him, he knocked you out, put you outside and teleported the house away, and this was your character's new domain because he left you there. Very interesting ending, too, if we ever wanted to revisit it, but it left a lot of things, like, up to, like, question, like, what happened next? Where did they go? Who knows?
Yeah, and I will say I did love playing in that session. That was the time that I came up with Oswin Alemaker, who's my current character now. He was in a very different form. He was like a level 12 bard. The Artificer hadn't officially released at that point yet, so I didn't choose that class. But he was very much similar, cocky and brash dwarf. Who kicks ass and takes names, and that was one of my favorites because there were three of us, and honestly, we were getting our asses handed to us by this black dragon. Like, we were not going to survive if we didn't come up with this harebrained scheme. So ultimately, we managed to polymorph it, and then I turned into a potted plant. But we chucked it over the edge of the cliff, and it plummeted to its death, which was just super fun. Highly recommend high-level spell casting because you get up to some fun shenanigans, but definitely one of my most fondly remembered sessions, even though we did lose at the end. But that's
well, you didn't necessarily lose. You beat the boss that I had planned. It's just that you guys were pretty worn down. And right at the end, I wouldn't say it was a loss. It was just a different ending than I expected. I expected, this guy's not really doing what we want, but he's going to pay us. We'll just go back home. But you guys were like, nope, we're taking the moral high ground. So you ended up being left on the island. It was the end of the
session either way. We figure, might as well fight him.
Yeah. And him being an archmage was not that easy for worn down characters.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, guys, on one-offs before we end the episode?
No. Put your heart into them. Run them. And even if they don't go according to plan, it's okay.
And test things out. That's my favorite thing about one-offs is test some shit out. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Table Talk Friday. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you guys celebrate, because this is coming out on Christmas Day if my scheduling is correct. So, have a good one. Celebrate New Year's. If you're of age, go out there and get drunk. And email tabletalkfriday@gmail.com if you have any questions, comment, concerns, or any cool stories just like the ones we just told. Other than that, character, please take us out to the holidays.
Ho, 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 no, oh no, oh, I'm Santa, I'm going, I'm taking you out.
Hello, it's Egnon Greylock here. Thank you for listening to Table Talk Friday. For more adventures, check us out at your favorite podcast service. If you have any questions about our travels, please write us a magic letter at tabletalkfriday@gmail.com. Otherwise, stop by next Friday for our next episode. Enjoy.